Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to District 38 Masterclass this afternoon with our facilitator, Dr. Bena Long. Dr. Bena Long leverages 20 plus years of executive coaching, training, and speaking for Fortune 100 and 500 companies, serving leaders at Merrill Lynch, Bank of America, Wharton Executive Education at Aresti Institute, and across industries. She holds a PhD in organizational development with a specialty in mindful leadership, applying meditation, embodied practices, and mindfulness in a modern scientific context. With monk-like dedication, Dr. Bena Long has logged more than 10,000 hours of meditation and related practices. An author, peer-reviewed research, including publications of the Rootlet Companion Series on Mindfulness and Leadership and Rootlet Company Series on Leadership and Change. She is currently offering her expertise as an online coach in lifestyle and leadership. And for Toastmasters, she is a member of the ETS Toastmasters Club in District 38, Division F. Please help me welcome Dr. Bena Long.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. So we begin together, and I know you're seated and comfortable, but if it's possible to stand up, I'm going to invite you to stand up because I'm preparing to give a presentation. So why not have you come along with me as I prepare to give a presentation? So if it is available, and if it's not available, stand up, that's okay. But what we're going to do first is, do you have a favorite superhero? Favorite superhero? Wonder Woman?
Yes.
Captain America? I heard somebody. All right, excellent. So, when you see them standing,
Yes.
Right? So I'm going to invite you, shoulders down though, and I'm going to invite you to have your hands on your hips, literally in our superhero pose, and I just want you to keep standing here in this pose. And we often forget that when we are giving speeches, we are embodied beings. And so the first thing we want to remind ourselves is we have the power. I have the power to connect and to delight and to help and to whatever the things are that motivate you to move and do what you want to do. So I'm preparing, and you're preparing with me. And as we prepare, if you're not familiar with the use of the superhero pose, as we stand in this, we are literally shifting our biology. Seriously, this pose alone will increase your confidence. Seems silly, doesn't it? But why do all the superheroes do it? Because they know it raises testosterone and lowers cortisol. So testosterone gives us that oomph, and cortisol lowering means we're reducing stress in our system. So there's a whole biological reason behind it. What's interesting is Amy Cuddy, and they'll be in the chat at some point as well, just for you to save off. There is a video of a TED Talk, who was the researcher who looked into this, and the positive impact for a speaker. You're all still standing with your hands on your hips, right? Okay. So the trick is, I think it takes 2 minutes, right, for the body to truly register it. And we're just about at 2 minutes. But the positive impact is when you as a speaker are here and feeling that confidence, the audience perceives it. Well, today, welcome. This is number 1 of our 10 ways of poise and presence. And I'll invite you to sit down if you want as well. And so, the thing with like body posture, it's a subtle thing. So we don't always sense it directly, but the more you do any kind of embodied practice, you start becoming attuned to it and its impact for you. So today we're going to cover 10 aspects of preparing and enabling ourselves to have more presence and poise, more confidence in our speech. And so the first one is power pose, really, and this is preparation before. You wouldn't usually start your whole presentation inviting the audience to do it with you, but nonetheless, in this case, it's appropriate. Then we'll get into breathing. The third one is a check-in. It's kind of self-care, naming what's going on in our system. The fourth one is how to be our own BFF, best friend forever. Many of us have some friendly parts of ourselves and some very judgmental parts of ourselves and some protective parts in ourselves that probably need calming down before we do some things. Number 5 is effective eye contact. Number 6 is going to be see and be seen. And we'll do that one in a moment. And even though I'll get into detail of it, and those coming in, welcome, welcome, welcome. And then number 7 is going to be centered in you. And centered in you is oftentimes, I mean, I spent decades giving speeches and like eagerly trying to please the audience and everyone around me that I lost a sense of myself, even lost voice. I don't know that I was giving speeches that kind of had me in them anymore. So we're going to talk about that. Number 9 is connection over content. Connection over content. And I think we had the added benefit of Bidisha talking about even giving technical presentations and the impact of that. We'll go into a little bit more. And then how you can connect with me at the end. So there's our 10. So we've done number 1, which is power pose. Welcome, everyone. I know we've had some people come along. If you are off screen and you're comfortable coming on, I invite you to come on. And we are going to be cruising at a little bit of a faster pace this time because we have 10 whole areas to cover. So the first one, this number two, and I think Anne just, when you can put up the number 1 with Amy Cuddy, which is a YouTube.
Already done.
Great. So there are things on the chat that I invite you to take off a chat, or I think at the end you can save. Also, as a reminder, when I'm asking for participation, you could literally raise a hand, or on your bottom bar of your Zoom, there is usually a raise hand symbol. You can click on that, and Anne will call on you for participation. So we'll start with participation. How many of you are familiar with any kind of breathing practice? Just raise your hand. I'm not going to call on anybody. So a number of you, most of you, I think at this point, wow, that's great. It's really, saturating the world. 10 years ago, even, yeah, people wouldn't know. We hit some sort of tipping point, which is exciting. Okay. How do we breathe before speaking? Last session, I showed you a 2 to 1. I'm going to show you that again, but I need to give it in a fuller context. And so we're going to do an experiment. Does everybody know how to find their pulse? Now, I have to tell you, this is a very subtle experiment, and you may or may not experience what I'm hoping you experience because it is subtle. So you have a carotid artery on your throat, and you could either try and find your lub-dub pulse on your neck, or you can use your wrist. So usually it's to the side. Where's my camera? It's usually to the side. And don't use your thumb in that process. You want to use your pointer and middle fingers, right? So if you can find your pulse in your wrist or in your throat, I'm going to literally invite you to do that in a moment. And just so you know, don't worry about taking notes. This is fully recorded, and Anne does release it as well. And somebody has no pulse. Okay, that's fine. But I don't believe you because you're still here. But if it's hard to find, then just hang out. And we always want to do things with ease. Okay, this is the instructions. When you find your pulse, and Chris, you can do this offline at another time if you feel more comfortable. Once you find your pulse, I want you to pay attention. What happens to your pulse when you inhale versus what happens to your pulse when you exhale? I'm going to be quiet. I'll say it one more time. When you inhale, something happens to your pulse. And when you exhale, something happens to your pulse. Go. Wonderful. So you may or may not have noticed, and I think there was something in the chat there. We'll go to the, Anne, can you read what was in the chat?
Michael Roundtree says it speeds up and it slows down on the out. Speeds up on the in and slows down on the out.
Excellent. That's called sinus arrhythmia. Every doctor out there knows about it, but only probably in the recent decade has it en masse been released through the science world that when you inhale, you're actually engaging your sympathetic nervous system. And when you exhale, you're engaging your parasympathetic nervous system. So last time we probably studied the nervous system was in high school when you had a gym coach there who really didn't want to teach you this stuff. So I'm going to gloss over it, give it highlights, but basically you have an autonomic nervous system. And historically they thought we had no control over our nervous system whatsoever until they realized we do to a certain degree. And so this inhale and exhale directly enables us to have an impact on our nervous system, to balance our nervous system and to calm our nervous system. And I don't know why anybody would want to do it, but you can, especially if you're an athlete under certain conditions, to speed it up. So the autonomic nervous system is automatic. Autonomic is automatic. If you don't pay attention to it, it's going to do what it does. But with the knowledge that our breath impacts it, we learn that we can help our breath. So our inhale and our exhale are equal in length and time, and we literally balance the autonomic nervous system. Powerful, because as you pay attention through your day-to-day, you'll probably find that you either are an excessive inhaler or an excessive exhaler, or when you have emotions, whoa, it shifts how you breathe. And all that shifting then shifts the chemical storehouse and the hormones in our system and so on. We're very intricately entwined. So this autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic, winds you up, gives us energy. It's like releasing fuel from the liver. And the parasympathetic helps us calm down, rest, digest, sleep. Most people have too much of an engagement in their sympathetic and they're wound up, but we're humans and it's not one or the other. We can have combination. So I'm telling you this because breathing practices are powerful and they should only be done in a way that is always at ease. Never force breathing practice, because it's a subtle part of our system and it impacts our nervous system. So always with ease and always what you're comfortable with. So the first breathing practice is actually your exhalation equals your inhalation. Let's experiment for a moment. Just get a sense of your own breathing, your own pace. Everybody breathes at different paces. So whether you want your eyes open or your eyes closed, just literally feel your breath in whatever way you appreciate sensing it. Some of us like to feel the motion of the movement of the chest or the belly. Some people like to feel the breath as it goes in and out of the nose, or some other variation. Just notice. And then get a sense of how long you're inhaling for and how long you're exhaling for. And the way you can get that is you can count. Like, how is my breath 1, 2, 3, or is it 1, 2, or 1, 2, 5, whatever it is. How long is your inhale in a number by counting? And how long is your exhale? So we're not changing it. It will adjust a little bit because you're paying attention. But what is your actual breath rate? And if your inhale is different than your exhale, so how many have an inhalation that's different than the exhalation? Raise your hand. Yeah, it's not uncommon. right? Totally normal. We go about life. And so, but in our day to day, when we're aware of it, under normal circumstances, and I think Anne had put 2, Chris had put 3, 3 and 3. So in our normal everyday circumstances, we actually want a 1-to-1 breath, meaning our exhale is equal to our inhale because it creates autonomic balance. And as you go through your day, you're going to have emotional ups and downs. And you'll notice that breathing goes with those emotions. But we can actually help ourselves calm the emotions by going back to even breathing. And I'm telling you this because the practice that I showed you last time that I'll reiterate here is your exhalations up to twice as long as your inhale. That is not normal everyday breathing, and I do not want you to confuse it for normal everyday breathing. It's only under conditions that you're really got a hit of adrenaline and you're about to speak, or you got a hit of adrenaline and you got an important meeting. That's it. Oh, there is one other circumstance. 2-to-1 breathing is your exhale is longer than your inhale, up to twice as long. Exhale is longer than your inhale. So we're going to practice that again, but we're not going to practice it for too long because it'll put you to sleep. And that's a little hint to a practice you can do before going to bed. Okay, so we're not here for sleeping, but so let's close our eyes for a moment. Just let go of whatever's going on. Feel comfortable with the eyes closed for a moment. And again, don't change your breath right away. Just note where it is at. And we'll talk about accepting what is present, especially when we get nervous. We don't want to force things. So you see and experience the breath as it is. And then you're going to note, where is my inhale right now? What is the count of my inhale? Just my inhale. And then you're going to invite your exhale to go a little longer, just a little longer than your inhale was. Every time you exhale, the exhale goes just a touch longer. Remember, it should be with ease, nice and easy, no force. You shouldn't feel like you have to do a catch-up breath. If you're experiencing that, you're going too far. And so every time you inhale, you feel the inhale, and every time you exhale, you let the exhale go a little longer. Continue doing this as I'm talking. Your exhalation goes a little longer after your inhale, and your inhale flows into your exhale, and your exhale flows into your inhale. It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. Keep going. We do this, and like all things, even the body needs a few moments to register the change in the breathing. So it's effective in a couple breaths, but you really give the whole system a chance to shift, recognizing that the parasympathetic can have more dominance. So it'll slow things down a little bit for you. And if you're not in a state of nervousness, anxiety, or adrenaline hit, I'm going to invite you while you're breathing now to shift it back to evenness. So that means you're going to pay attention and count. Is my inhale about equal to my exhale? Is my inhale equal to exhale? And again, it's approximation. You can use numbers at first. Some people, the numbers get distracting, so you can actually just feel the breath and you get a sensation of it moving in and out. And then when you're ready, because your eyes are closed, I'll invite you to bring your palms of your hands a couple inches in front of your eyes. Your hands are a couple inches in front of your eyes. So when you do open your eyes, what you actually see first are the palms of your own hands. So opening your eyes into the palms of your own hands, and then let the hands release once that is open. Okay. That was number 2. Number 3. So we can do that, we prep, we're about to do it. Because in the first 2 minutes of something that we may have nervousness toward, we're getting adrenaline hit. So anytime you have anxiety or nervousness, you may feel like, okay, I helped myself calm down, but I'm still feeling it. And that's because the adrenaline's in the system. So the feeling it part may lead you to have thoughts, let's say, that get afraid of the experience you're having. So I think there was an old phrase, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. So in the same sense, when we are about to do something that's important to us and that creates this adrenaline hit, and remember, adrenaline hit could be from excitement. It's not necessarily negative, but it can still feel that same kind of out of balance, too much. So however, we don't have to label it good or bad or positive or negative. Where we come into is number 3 is a check-in. And that is naming your experience, right? Because we'll have parts of ourselves that, we've experienced discomforts and we don't like it. And then if we don't like it, we can build fears around it, right? I'm going to be so nervous. I'm going to flub it out of my words. I'm so nervous. I'm going to forget. I mean, I've done all these things, right? And we do them. So, or just the discomfort of having heart racing because of the adrenaline. So let's, as an example, and
There's
did
a
you?
question?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a question in chat from Linda. She
Okay.
says she's been practicing. Hers inhale, exhale is a 3 in, a 4 out. That's because she's practiced. Is that not a good idea to do on a regular basis?
So the reason why I don't suggest it on your day-to-day is because it's going to make the parasympathetic dominant. And actually, we want to be balanced. So we're not perfectly balanced as humans. But if you keep making your parasympathetic dominant, parasympathetic dominance can lead to things that are challenging. It can actually create problems around toward depression, because it's your rest, digest, it slows your whole system down and it innervates with all your organs. Yeah, does that make sense? And that's why, yeah.
That might be why I tend to yawn throughout the day, right?
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you for asking. And this is why you'll find a lot of stuff about breath out there right now, but people don't understand the full context. And so this is why I want to say 2 to 1 is great. It is not your day-to-day breathing. Mm-hmm. It is only, I've got this big event and adrenaline's rushing, whether I'm excited or scared, doesn't matter, the adrenaline's rushing. So how do I get myself balanced enough? And because we're so far into the sympathetic nervous system, we engage the parasympathetic by exhaling longer to calm it down. But don't stay there. Okay, does that make sense? Thank you. That's an excellent question, and I'm glad you asked it. Yeah. Okay. So the next part is that, okay, now I'm giving a speech right now, and I'll invite a show of hands and tell me some things. I want you to label some things that are probably going on in my body. You've had the experience. You've gone up on stage. So I want you to raise your hands. What possible things? So for example, I will say muscle tension. Somebody else. Let's just go around, and Anne, if you can call them.
Grizel.
The voice vibrates.
Thank you.
Ann Mallison.
I get racing thoughts, and what I want to say gets confused oftentimes.
I hear you.
Michael. All right, if he does not coming off mute, he says he has a shaky voice, sweaty.
Yes, I hear you.
Vidisha.
I don't know the emotion, but the last thing which I tell myself just before going, I'm doing it.
Okay.
Linda.
I hear you.
Heart racing.
I hear you. Yes.
And for me, it's a shaky voice, to begin with until I get through my first sentence.
I hear you. And I think Crystal has a hand
Oh,
raised.
Chris, there's Chris.
The butterflies make me want to throw up.
Yes.
Sharon Small.
Welcome, Sharon.
Hold on, I have heart racing until I'm announced. Once they say my name, I'm fine.
Interesting. Okay.
Cassandra.
Thank you. Yes, keep going. Who else?
For
Cassandra.
me, it's just making sure I cover all the high points that I wanted to cover in the talk or presentation.
Okay.
And Sharita, and then Carolyn.
Quick memory block for a second. I just lose all sense of what I prepared to say.
I hear you.
Carolyn, and then Virginia.
Sorry, I'm on my iPad and it wasn't unmuting. So for me, I get shortness of breath, so I have to take long pauses as I speak to catch my breath, and I hope that nobody notices. And then I always have a fear that I'm going to forget what I want to say.
Mm-hmm. I hear you. Yeah.
And Virginia. Are you there? Okay, let's move on.
Okay. So this part of naming literally is, even in preparation, if you're noticing that everything that's going on is becoming distracting or the thoughts are digging into it. So it is literally labeling. My heart is racing. You're saying it inside. My heart is racing. My palms are sweaty. My voice is shaking, before the speech, or even in your pause. It's just acknowledging. There's a real power to labeling. And I'll give you an example. A situation outside of speaking, I had taken something and I was having almost an anaphylactic shock to it, right? It was definitely closing my throat. I was having trouble breathing. And this labeling practice enabled me to not get caught in the triggers, because clearly biologically I'm in stress now, right? So, but I had to maintain my clarity of mind so I can discern what's going on and what happened. So it was literally, sweaty palms, throat closing, breath, literally doing that. And as I did that, that helped me to actually stay calm enough to know in that moment, actually, I didn't need to do anything except ride out what was there. It wasn't too far gone. So labeling is this, all these practices are really simple, but you have to practice them and they're very powerful, but don't take my word for it. You start experimenting when you're not under stress, just in your everyday. So the next time you go out for a walk, because it's been really beautiful out lately, I hope wherever you are, you've been enjoying that. And just get used to labeling a bit. Labeling street sign, yellow street signs, sidewalk, green grass, clovers, or, like yellow flower. This also gives you a baseline when you are in a stressful situation where anxiety is present. You can't do it. Like, it's really interesting if you're sort of the measures of how much you're in control you are. If you're in an extreme state, it's very hard to label. So if you just practice this when you're not in any stress whatsoever, just labeling, that was an example of outside of you, but start labeling inside. What do you wear in the middle of the day? All of a sudden you feel like your back aches, like, oh, backache, shoulders near ears. And just allow that to happen. And you start getting a sense of, you can calm that aspect, because these are different layers of ourselves. Breath doesn't cure everything just by attending to breath. We still have narrative, and we still have these other parts of ourselves in our psyche that will have other things that they do. So labeling your experience from there. That was number 3. And in the chat, and if she hasn't put it in already, yes. There is a link to a self-care guided practice. It doesn't directly use labeling through all of it, but it does start taking you through a scanning process through your system to get used to that. Number 4. BFF. All right. So you've done your superhero pose, you've worked with the breath, you're labeling inside, and this is all pre, right? But you've got that judgmental voice coming out.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. People talk about inner children. I've got lots, and most of them are like teenagers that just are, leave me alone, bad language and all the rest. So when the judges come out, what are they going to think of me? Am I going to be credible? Are they going to like me? Am I going to forget what I say? So on and so forth. We actually have to have compassion for ourselves. This one's a little trickier. And again, it's something you have to practice before. So mentally, one of the ways is to say, oh, if my best friend was here, what would they be saying to me? And say it to yourself. Now, you might have a friend that razzes you all the time, so we don't want that example. So it would be, you've just labeled everything, you know the status of what's really going on. The experience of that you're in the middle of. You're radically accepting it, and you're even accepting, I've got these really judgmental voices. So you can even label that, wow, judgmental voice. And then I hear you, and yet we need to do this together. So while I hear you, I think maybe we can be a little kinder to ourselves before we get out there. So different ways, you have to find the ways that you can actually start having a relationship in conversation with these different parts of your mind. There's a whole system and lots of research now even showing, we think of our psyches as one mind. We've got so many different voices in our head, and we're not on the DSM. It's actually normal. So DSM is a psychological scale for things that are able to be labeled in a disease state. Standard human beings, we have different voices that go on in our head. Sometimes we have different aspects of ourselves from childhood, that could be from trauma. We have different aspects of ourselves that come out. So this BFF part is all about relationship with yourself, not with anybody else, with yourself. So let me ask you a question. When you brush your hair, and I'll tell you a personal story on this. When you actually, if you brush or comb your hair, and it could be anything, brush your teeth, take a shower, like, are you kind and gentle? And I'll tell you, I grew up hating my hair for a whole host of reasons that we won't get into here. And then I met this teacher that was like, why don't you just actually be gentle as you work with your hair? And it's the first time in my life I actually had anybody that showed me love and respect for my hair and wasn't judging me and actually really cared. And so I tried it. I mean, I was bawling my eyes out because I was the first time I was actually able to give myself a gift of a part of myself that I hated so much, to stop hating it and actually be compassionate. All right, so I won't go down this rabbit hole too much. The idea is that when we're kind to ourselves, it actually calms us as well. So we're not denying these parts of ourselves. We've all got the meanie in us and the hatred in us and everything else. We're human. We're actually accepting it, but we're bigger than it. So we're accepting it, and we're finding the spaciousness of the love and kindness that we are, that it can be within. Any questions on that one? If so, raise your
Chris
hand.
did put a link in the video for a movie called Inside Out. I don't know what what's that in relation to, Chris?
You're getting to know your feelings, having compassion for yourself. It's actually the second movie is coming out this summer, and the first movie is about a little 8-year-old girl, and it has all these little characters of all the different emotions that she's feeling. It's like a computer in her head that's reacting to situations. And now the second movie is about her as a teenager. So now you get all these extra emotions because you're growing and changing. And again, how do you accept who you are and deal with all those emotions within you? I just thought that was appropriate.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. I think what I haven't said, but really a big part of it is around emotions. Most of us in all the cultures that we're coming from are not very good at handling emotions. And emotions, I'll just really quickly, when you go through your day, you have feelings. Sad, happy, angry. We have feelings, we have an event, we have feelings. It comes, it goes, we're done. These feelings are meant to flow through us because they're ways in which we interact with the world around us or what's going on. Emotions are actually stuck feelings, and emotions are things that can be healed. So emotions are a feeling, say like anger, that just gets held on to. And so that emotion then is something that can be healed, but that's not for this talk. It is a whole other avenue of things. So thank you, Chris, for sharing that. That's one way to look at it and work with emotions for sure. Okay, number 5. I'm watching time here too. Okay. So does everybody have the view as the grid right now? If you don't have it as a grid, I'm going to invite you to look to the upper right-hand corner and change your view to grid instead of speaker. So it should be on the upper right-hand corner of your
Gallery.
screen.
Gallery.
And the reason we're going to do this is we're going to look into each other's eyes. Now, just like doing embodied practices, even if you're in a live audience, same type of thing. What I recognize is we make a mistake of just looking briefly, 1 or 2 seconds, and we actually need 5 to 20 seconds to look into somebody's eyes. Now, online, it's a little different. So just take 5 seconds per person, but literally, as we're here, take a moment to look at everyone. And notice as you're looking at everyone one at a time, what might that be doing for you? As you take the time to be present with each individual. Now, I know we've got 2 people that aren't on screen. And Virginia, thank you for coming on so we can do this. It's nice to see you. For people that aren't present, I think, well, that's my second one, me, but for Michael, actually read Michael's name and just take that in. We're all looking at you, Michael.
So handsome. Isn't he, girls? You know what? I think that's what it is. It's all women, and he's the only guy here.
All right.
There we go.
All right.
I had to put myself in my son's room. He's at the computer desk. So
Okay.
I'll be
No
honest, looking
worries.
at people kind of makes me feel intimidated a little bit.
Yeah, it does.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So as a speaker, and does anyone, thank you for sharing your experience there, Michael. Does anyone else want to share just taking the time to do that? What was its impact on you?
I kept moving the people around so that because almost everyone is looking down because you're trying to capture everyone. I clicked and I moved them up closer to where my eye level is at the camera. And so I'm trying to look at them, but they're still looking down at their computer.
Okay.
So every one of you got moved on my screen so I could try and make better eye contact with you. So it's just kind of interesting then the ones that were just kind of looking at the camera when I caught it, like, oh, there's a little connection.
Nice. Thank you. Linda, yeah. And then Vidisha.
I found it relaxing to slow down and get to know everybody one-on-one as much as possible.
I hear you. Yeah. Thank you, Linda. Vidisha.
I felt a sense of calmness when I focused on someone for a longer time. And I felt I can connect with this person. That's what I felt means very much like me. They're not different. I don't know if there's a right way to put it, but I felt very calm.
Yeah, and that will lead us into the next section as well. So it's allowing seeing to happen. Now, full disclosure, I mean, I spent a lot of my lifetime even being around people in general, and to have that kind of eye contact is incredibly difficult because as a person in my personality, I actually learned how to hide really well. So being an extreme people pleaser, I knew how to be, for the most part, what people wanted me to be around them. And so to be seen was actually dangerous from my perspective. So made it very uncomfortable. And that's probably why I spent years being absolutely uncomfortable as a speaker. While I would try and engage people, there was always a wall for me, because it was too much. So recognize that there is a range, and depending on your personal experience. Yeah, thank you, Michael. Agreed. So, and that's a process that goes back to what we were talking about before, which is something outside of speaking. It's really working with emotions and working with deeper past stuff as well. And there's lots of actually fun ways to do that. Okay, so allowing seeing to happen. So that may even mean, and especially I think of all those years that I was totally comfortable with that. Number 6, see and be seen, right? So it's interesting how it leads to this, see and be seen. Khadijah had said it, we're human beings. So number 6 is see and be seen. We're human beings. So you want to show some of you. So people liked enough of what I was doing. I mean, I'm very different now. You definitely get much more of me than you would have even 5-10 years ago for sure, right? Because that's just where I was, right? It was just too difficult, even though I kept doing it, right? Persistence, determination, dedication, I don't know, nutsiness. So to see and be seen is really something to consider. Like the people in the room, some of the time when I was delivering to people that were incredibly successful in ways that are not part of me or something I wouldn't pursue, but a bit in awe of, that becomes really nerve-wracking, difficult. So how do I let little me be seen amongst these people that are titans, or what I perceive as titans in a room, right? So this is where we each of us find our individual humanity. What's something easy for you to share? So sometimes in speaking, it might be a personal story. And I know going through Toastmasters, there's lots of different techniques to bring you into the room. And one of them usually is storytelling. How do you add a personal component? So if you're not comfortable with anything else, come up with a personal story that relates to what you're talking about. And I think I revealed some along the way. Do others have ways that you do this? And if we have time for 2, because we still got others to go through, if 2 people want to share, what are some of the ways that you, beyond storytelling, is there anyone here that uses or is aware of a way that you share yourself beyond storytelling when you're speaking? Curious. And if so, raise a hand and I'll call on you. Well, I guess I'll call. So I think I saw Chris, and then it'll be Linda and then Anne. Go ahead.
So when I first started speaking, I was very nervous and I didn't want people looking at me. So I took my glasses off. So for me, looking at fuzzy blobs, they were colorful, but they were all fuzzy. I couldn't tell if it was a real person or not. That was not scary for me. So it looked like I was making eye contact with everyone in the room. Couldn't tell if anybody was smiling because I couldn't see that at all. And as I built up my own confidence, then I could start wearing my glasses. And then I actually had to make eye contact, but then I would try and focus on those who were either nodding along or smiling, and those who didn't have any reaction or looking down or whatever, I would avoid them because I wanted to make a connection with someone who could reinforce that I was doing a good job.
Thank you, Chris. Very interesting strategy. I think it's the first time I heard about taking off the glasses. I actually like that. I like all of it, but that's really
Doesn't work for everyone, especially if you don't wear glasses, but
especially moving around the stage a lot. No.
Yeah.
Thank you. Who was next? Do you remember?
Linda.
Linda. Yeah.
I love that. Well, it's funny because I wear my readers up on stage because I think most of the time I do because I think they make me look more intelligent. So it kind of boosts my confidence. But also I was going to say my tone of voice and body language. So I practice meditation and yoga, and I'm a big love sort of person, so I try to show that. And I also heard at one point when you open up your hands like this, it's kind of sharing yourself and being open. I don't know if I've done that, if I do it intentionally or I've just done that my whole life. I think I used to be Italian or something. I talk a lot with my hands, but and then tone of voice, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Yeah. And then Anne.
I started out by focusing on the one friendly face in the audience that I made the eye connection with, and it's generally someone who's sitting up front. And then so that everybody would feel that they were inclusive, someone shared this great tip is that you look at the back of the room and you just scan your eyes over without really looking at anybody until you can get comfortable with the audience. And that way everybody feels like you've made eye contact with them, when in reality, you've probably only made contact with that person that you come back to when you start getting nervous again and you look directly at them. So if you look straight ahead and just glance your eyes, it looks like you're looking at everybody. And that's how I initially got over the fear of standing up in front of a group like that to speak.
Thank you. Very interesting. So clearly there's lots of different ways we can do this. So number seven, centered in you. So I know in the beginning of my speaking days, I totally lose sense of myself. I was always going out to the audience, right? So centered in you is don't leave yourself in order to meet the audience. What does that mean? Stay aware of the sensations. So remember where we labeled things in the beginning? Actually stay aware of your beingness, your body, and what's going on in you. And so in that sense, you want instead of projecting your energy and your presence out, disembodied, you want to be very aware of yourself, and we'll get in the next thing. It will be about how we expand ourselves, but we want to really still attend so that we're very aware of maybe my heart's still racing, maybe the pacing on my speech needs to slow down, maybe my tone's shifted or the pitch of my voice has gone up too much. So as you stay in that, then let the audience come to you. Versus you just start talking, you're looking at the audience, and who knows, you lose sight of pace, pitch, tone, body language, you like lose it all. So you don't want to do that. I've been there many times, right? So you want to keep yourself attuned as much as you can. And this is where the strength of mindfulness and the practices of meditation start helping, because they help you expand your awareness. So that we all actually can be very aware of all these aspects of ourselves as we train our minds more and more. Because the less you got chatting going on in your head, the more you're in perceptual awareness. Your mind either thinks or it perceives. You got chatter or you're sensing. And there are two modes. And if you're just talking to yourself, you're missing most of what's going on. The mind's very quick, so you can kind of scan, come back to your thoughts, so on. It's just like you're trying to listen to me right now, but probably 50% of the time you're thinking about what am I doing for dinner, or the kids bothering me. So all that chatter is actually distracting you from being present. So stay centered in yourself in these ways. That's number 7. Let the audience come to you. Okay, number 8. Create shared space. Oof. This one's a challenge for me personally. I'm wondering if it's a challenge for you. The idea of it is it's as though you're inviting people into your home. Now, depending on who you're speaking to, and I have the opportunity and the gift of being able to speak to large audiences before. And at that time that I was doing it, there's no way I'm inviting these people into my home. Just saying. And yet, as a speaker, people want to know you. They want to know who you are, right? So if you can mentally at least think about warmth and welcome. So it doesn't have to be your home, but in the space you're at, like we're in this virtual space. So I can literally, for myself as a speaker, the presenter here, I'm imagining that we're all in one shared bubble in space and time. And then I can be here with you as each of you have your own individual bubbles, but we're sharing one larger space together. It doesn't have, it's in space. It's not on my physical home. I'm really a pretty private person and I like quiet time and, I like to hide and everything. So this is how I do it. So I want to honor that, right? So, but the idea is when you're with people, you can create a shared space. As an example, if you're in a group that's actually workshopping together, you purposely do that together, right? So as an example, because we are kind of workshopping it, I want you to just take a moment and imagine, so you can close your eyes. This is going to use of our imagination, but imagination is powerful. So if you're comfortable closing your eyes, I just, feel yourself comfortable. You're in a secure environment in your own space or wherever you're at. And then imagine that you've got a circle of light around you. It's your light, right? It's your light. And that light around you can be as much as 3 feet in every direction. Kind of like your own personal egg bubble. Sounds kind of funky, but really you can work with this imagination because then you're creating a protective field that is yours. It's your energy alone. And then allow, knowing that you have the safety of determining what comes in your bubble and what goes out of your bubble. Your highest self determines, okay? Or even beyond that, if you have spiritual beliefs that the higher powers are actually enabling you to stay protected in your energetic and personal psychic bubble, so that only what can come in is what's benevolent and good for you, beneficial, and the things that need to leave, leave. Okay, so you've got your own personal bubble. And then imagine a very large bubble containing everybody here. Now, I would even invite that each of us has some sort of candle we're holding, showing the intention of benevolence and care for one another, that our highest selves are coming present with one another. So you see lots of different candles present, your own and everyone else that's here in one large space. And then when you're ready, you can gently, if your eyes are closed, you can bring your palms up in front of your eyes so your eyes open into your hands. And then move the hands away. Right, so you could even do something like this on your own. So I have to tell you, the yogis work with this a lot. It's really powerful. I mean, I've experimented with this. I have pretty strong spiritual faith. And so I align it with that. It's really setting the intention of your highest self is protecting you. And the highest of highest selves in divine form or whatever form is your belief, if you have any, and if you don't, that's fine too. I can get into this with science, but that the energies that are present are benevolent and have the best intentions. That's why I use light. Okay, so that's a little woo-woo, but for those of you that are into it, it's a fun thing. And if not, just dismiss it. Okay, so we've got our shared space and okay, thank you for sharing, Michael. He's into it. Yay. Okay, warmth and welcome. So in the most simplest sense, we're talking secular world stuff. I just want to welcome you to my home. So how do you do that as a speaker? And what way do you do that as a speaker? In your own mind and how you express it. Number 9. And we have 5 minutes. Woo. Connection over content. This is tough. I mean, how often we prepare a speech? Some of us don't prepare at all, but we prepare because we have so much experience around it, or maybe we're going on and on in our head. Have you ever had in the parts of the mind and they're constantly rehearsing, or maybe looping on certain parts of your speech, right? This is okay. So I'm hearing you. This is where you struggle, right? In the certain parts of the speech and so on. And so the only way that we can let go of this is to acknowledge it, right? Because usually it's actually a part of ourselves that's a protector saying, you need to pay attention here. So anytime we're feeling anxiety, it's really fascinating. Anxiety is really nothing more than the mind telling you, focus here, right? And it could be guided from something from the past, positive or negative, but it's telling you to focus. So if that part of you is telling you to focus and all you're hearing is a rumination, which means it's going on and it's loop, loop, loop. I got a good loopy mind, right? Loop, loop, loop. So then you have to be willing to step back. Techniques, go back to the breath, do your standing posture, and have, before offline, improve the relationship with that part. That part wants to be heard. So inside your head saying, oh my gosh, I hear you inside of my head. You keep pointing out that I need to talk about the breathing, not just from the 2 to 1, because you're seeing so many, but then my mind will come up with some sort of loopy doopy, right? That's uncomfortable. And so when it's in that space, we have to let go. How do we let go? Here's the most fascinating thing about letting go. Why are we giving speeches in the first place? Why am I even leading this? Because I want to connect with you. And you're coming because you think you're going to get something from this. I hope you do. I just one thing, and I'll ask you at the end here, what's the one thing you got from this? We want to connect. I mean, you might have other reasons. The big shift I had as a speaker was so focused on myself. Am I credible? Are they going to like me? Are they going to judge me? I'm going to flub. Am I going to forget? And then when I realized, oh, this isn't even about me. None of this is about me. I'm actually here to do something, to share something, to serve these people, to serve all of you. Once I really felt that and got that, then all of that stuff just started to disappear. Still shows up, but nowhere near as much, because I'm realizing, oh, it's not about me. I'm really here for everybody, and I'm going to mess up, and I'm going to flub, and I'm going to forget, and all those things are going to happen, and I still have to show up. So, and that was a process through time. So people remember how you make them feel, not really what you say. I mean, they remember a little tidbit here or there, but they're going to remember how you've made them feel. So before giving a speech, if you can think of, if you got a happy place. I mean, I never had happy places. Another full disclosure. I'm telling you too much stuff. I never had it. Some people have, if you have a happy places, it's awesome. Work with them. I was somebody who had never had a happy place until very recent in my life, right? There's so no happy place. My dog grounded me, centered me, cute and lovable, made me feel warm and welcome. And so I would just imagine myself with my dog. Again, using imagination, powerful stuff. And if you keep using imagination around a particular scene a lot, like I would bring my dog to my mind, and that would just totally calm me down. Right? No happy place, no problem. You got something. It might be staring at a sunflower. It doesn't matter what works for you. Okay, and number 10, drum roll, most important. Enjoy yourself. And if you're not enjoying yourself and it doesn't have a purpose, or it's not part of your life's purpose, or it's not part of your dharma, or whatever it may be, then stop doing it. Well, here we are at the end. So what I'm going to do, I'm acknowledging it's the top of the hour. So if you have to go, I understand. If you can hang out just for a few minutes, Anna also put in there how to connect with me. I'm looking at starting a meditation class. So if you are interested, get in touch with me. There's LinkedIn, there'll be my email. If you're interested in 30-minute free coaching consultation, contact me as well. Just from being here, you can let me know that you were here and I'll offer you that. But I want to know before you go, what's one thing that you're going to do differently? So I know you're all leaving inspired. Okay, was that egotistical? Okay, so, but that's not important. The inspiration's great if it motivates you to do one thing, literally just one thing. So if we can, those that want to share, what's the one thing you're going to do differently from here? And I'll invite you to call on people as they raise hands. So raise your hand so Anne knows, and you can use either your literal hand or the raised hand on the computer.
I'm going to start because you gave me a wonderful idea. Is to imagine that happy place with my beloved pet that passed away 2 years ago, and that's Jock. So thank you for that. Chris.
I want to do that superhero pose. And when I normally don't stand for any of my speeches. I'm virtual. I have mobility issues, but even just for those less than 2 minutes that I actually did stand up and tried it here, I could feel that shift, and I kept that energy even once I sat back down again. So I want to start doing that more often before I give speeches then.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Linda.
I love the whole thing. A couple things. The breathing, I definitely learned something huge. I always focus on a bigger exhale because I had heard it was good for us, but I'm going to try to even them out. And it's interesting, as far as the gentle thing that you were talking about, I'm going to be getting a tattoo soon, and I was going to put the word gentle just inside my wrist. And then I decided to make it the I can't remember what it's called, but symbol for breathing, breath. So I'm very big into both of those things. I'm a big believer.
Wonderful. Yeah, your experience will speak to it. The breath, there's a whole science of breath. I mean, people that are masterful at it can read your life in your breath. I mean, so which rabbit hole do you want to go down? The most important one is keep practicing and pay attention to what it's doing.
Yeah.
Adisha.
All techniques were wonderful, but which really stuck out is labeling. Label your emotions, label what you see, acknowledge them, and then take it ahead. I really loved it.
Wonderful.
Michael. All right. We'll move on.
I'm struggling. Yeah. Can you tell? Sorry about that. I just allow myself the freedom to not know everything. I tend to get under my own skin quite a bit and worry that I don't have the answers for everything when I am speaking on a topic, and really just taking the time to refocus. And I like the light idea, imagining a warming, comforting light. I think that brings forth somewhat of a happy place too for me. And just remembering that I'm here for service. And if that's my intention, as you said, I can deliver the feeling more than the message, and hopefully combine those two with some more experience.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Grizel.
When we did the practice looking at others' eyes, eye contact, I noticed that some of the emotions or feelings were contagious. For example, when I saw someone smiling, I smiled automatically. So I'm thinking to incorporate the smiling when I speak more. And another one is the interaction to see and be seen. Sometimes that interaction can be powerful for that connection on both sides, very mutual. So that's what my highlights today. Thank you very much for this presentation.
You're welcome.
Carolyn.
Loving all this. It's good.
I think the warmth, inviting people to your home, and the warmth and welcome that you exude would be a very helpful strategy to start with. it's a lot better frame of mind than being anxious. And along with that, probably along with that, would be remembering that you're there for others and to try and put yourself in the background and them in the forefront. And I think that that's a really good idea. And I did love your have a happy place. And yes, my dog would work for me. I use the same one.
Love it. Thank you.
Great, great. Sharita.
I, I, I guess it's almost two. For a long time, I've always tried not to be seen. Over the last couple of years, there has been people pushing me to be seen. So, and there is a movie, Avatar, and in one of the scenes, the man say to the lady, "I see you." Sometimes I didn't always see the importance of acknowledge someone as being seen or need to be seen. And today it just reinforced, some of the things that I have struggled with between not being seen, and there are individuals who like to be seen, but how does it feel when somebody do see me for me? So I take away this as an important lesson today in being seen. And thank you.
Wow. Thank you for that. And I personally resonate with that because I know how to hide really well. And so the being seen is huge. And I do see you. I'm delighted to see more of you and keep coming out. I'm doing the same. Yeah.
Cassandra.
For me, it would be the two things: the imagine your happy place and the breathing. So I know that I've tried to slow down my breathing too, as you breathe in and then exhale, slowing that down. But what you've said, maybe too much. Maybe I should, do more balance there. So that's what I take away.
Thank you,
Great.
Cassandra.
Thank you.
Sharon Smalls.
My takeaway is that it's okay to understand. I have been a nurse since 1982. So I am a registered nurse. I have my master's degree in public health, and I educate attorneys, and I can educate registered nurses at any level. So my biggest takeaway was when I do not prepare for my speeches, and I always thought that was a fault. A lot of days is a couple hours or just before, and I do well. I do well because I've done a lot of speeches for my master programs, for my bachelor's program, and I spent my whole life walking into rooms and meeting strangers and saying, "Hello, my name is Sharon. I'm your nurse for today, and now I need to look at your intimate parts of your body. As I remove your gown and look at your vagina, your buttocks, your abdomen, wherever your surgical incision may or may not be." So when you said it was okay for me not to prep, you said some people prep and some people don't. They use their experiences. I'm in an advanced Toastmaster club, and one of the persons there is the district president, Christopher Holtz. He is an English professor. He told me, he said, "Sharon, you're a storyteller." And I run with that. I use every speech and I share me because I have a million stories and I'm comfortable with that. So you validated me today. I realized I have more poise and confidence than I thought. I am also a Christian, and I have, they're not speeches, but I've spoken in a house of worship. I would have anxiety then. But I told you, once you introduce me, I'm fine. Once you say, "This is Sharon Smalls, da 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 da," all anxiety drop away and let's laugh, even if it is about God. So I thank you for that. I truly needed this validation. I truly needed to say to myself, it's okay. So when you were talking about the parasympathetic system, and I was like, you know what? I know this, but I listened. I listened. But I
Great.
thank you for allowing me to share. I'm going to shut up now because I am very talkative. I am
Thank you,
extremely talkative.
Sharon.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you. That's a really beautiful realization, validation. Thank you.
Michael?
Oh no, I'm all set. If I pressed a reaction or something, I'm sorry. I was just giggling at Sharon. So
All right. Virginia, and she's all the way from Brussels.
Wow. Virginia, are you here?
All right, then let's go with, oh, I'm going to ask her to come on. I don't want to butcher her name. Sauradh. Could you please tell me how to pronounce that?
Yeah, hello. Saurabh.
Saurabh.
Saurabh? Okay, Saurabh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, today is about meditation or mindfulness. Like while in professional services, whatever concepts you know and whatever experience or learnings you have experienced, it's not feasible to convey completely within a speech or sentence, because on the spot, like for example, line number 6 will strike, line 12 will strike. It all happens based on situation. So therefore, we should think, meditate, then confidence can come. Sometimes like 2x speed will talk, like for example a rapper person, so therefore meditation is required, I feel.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, we'll give Virginia one last chance if she's there. And if not, all right. It is 3:12. I'll give it to Dr. Bena Long for closing comments. And then after that, everybody please come off mute. And when she's done speaking, and let's hear it up for Dr. Bena Long. Dr. Bena Long, your closing comments, please.
You are perfect and wonderful. These 10 steps, if you forget all of them, just remember you are love and you are loved. And then go out there and do the best service you can, because each one of you is hugely important to the world. Thank you.
Wow, let's hear it up for Dr. Bena Long. What an awesome, inspiring, helpful session this afternoon. I know I have learned so much with these 2 sessions, and she has introduced me into meditation in a way that I can relate to it. And so I have to thank her very much for doing this series for us here in District 38. She's just phenomenal. And with that, I'm going to give everybody the rest of their Sunday afternoon back. We'll call this a close. Let me stop recording.